Good day. We're here at the Steam Whistle Brewing Company, the good beer folks.
That's right.
Alrighty. We're here with Greg, co-founder.
Yep, co-founder.
Alrighty. How long has Steam Whistle been in business?
We've been brewing beer for over 11 years now. We started in March 22nd of 2000 is when we first product.
Alrighty. How did you come up with your name? Well,
the story is we were looking at different locations for the brewery, and we were actually in the east end of the city, in what they call the distillery district. And there's a great building there that we were considering trying to buy from the city. And we were on top of that building with my brother and my partner Cam. And we looked out over the city from the east end, and you could see all the buildings there. We thought, we're going to have a retro look and feel for our product. What if we had a steam whistle on top of this building? The steam whistle off, and then all the white collar guys downtown Toronto could see the steam coming out, hear the sound, and the message being, it's time for a reward at the end of the day. Let's have a nice cool steam whistle built. And Cam liked that idea. We had a list of names, 10 different name options, and Cam said, let's put steam whistle on the list as a possible name option. And right away, the idea that there was a mnemonic with it, it was a vision, it was iconic, and yet really no one owned it. Was perfect for us because it really represents the brewery at the end of the day. So that became the choice.
Alrighty. Why only one style here?
Well, we learned working with Cameron's father at the Epican Brewing for 10 years that with a smaller facility, craft brewing, it's a challenge to meet all your requirements of quality and distribution issues and the sales and marketing of the product. Do it at the level you want to well. Lesson there was one or two of a selection of up to 15 beers that we had were best sellers. Let's take one of those beers that people favored and that really enjoyed the most and become an expert at that style. And create an environment where it was easier business to run in terms of reaching your end goal, which was a customer promise of top quality beer that could compete with the best beers in the world. Because in Ontario now, at British retail and LCBO stores, you can go and buy a beer from them. So we knew we wanted to have a premium pilsner that would match or exceed the quality of European beers coming into the country. And the idea was becoming an expert at that, focusing, doing one thing really, really well, having a staff understand when they came in. They only had to make one beer, make it great, come in here every day, make it better. We believe that would result in a really strong product.
Now, with your expertise in this one style, has there ever been thought given to an imperial or a light pilsner?
There are a lot of requests from customers. We love to listen to our customers about coming up with alternative styles to our product or different versions of our product. And one of the things that's special with steam whistle is the fact that we make only one beer. In fact, the feedback we got from customers is they really like the idea of the focus because it's more of a European tradition to have a brewery that only makes one beer. Our brewmaster is from the Czech Republic. He worked at Pilsner Urquell. He did his studies after he finished university. Went to Pilsner Urquell and became a brewmaster there, officially there for 4 or 5 years. So if you ask him to make a different style of beer, he doesn't understand this because his idea, growing up in Europe, is that you focus on one thing and you become the best in the world with that. So that message got through to our customers after the first couple of years, and we realized, hey, we have something special here. We're doing something different. We want to stick to that. So our thing is this: there's a lot of different beers available in the beer store and LCBO. There's a huge selection of people doing a great job, and so we don't feel it's necessary for us to come up with different variations of our product or different styles. We want to be an expert in that type of things.
Alrighty. I love the vintage fleet. What made you choose to have that?
Well, that was an opportunity that we learned about in the earlier brewery that I talked about. And what we noticed was that vehicles, if they have character, are a way to express your brand. And so in discussions when we were first putting the brand story together, we realized that for us, it would be perfect as a vintage vehicle. Have a vintage vehicle on the road, but one that actually would operate and would deliver beer. People would see it working. And this is something that people really admire. Not only just going to a car show to see a vintage truck that comes off a trailer, but to see it on the street, dropping off kegs in front of a restaurant. People love it. And it sends a great message about the best of the past combined with the technology and the incredible job we can do today making beer that is something that reaches people. And I can tell you a story when I first was driving one of our recent acquisitions with the 1950 sedan delivery. Parked at a gas station getting gas. An old gentleman comes up to me and says, "I love seeing this car on the road. I learned how to drive standard transmission. My father taught me in this exact car." And as he was saying this, his kids come driving by in a van. One of the guys, like a teenager, has his head out the window and yells at me, "Dude, that ride is sick." So you realize that the vehicle itself has an emotional appeal to a broad demographic of people. They all get what we're up to and they admire the brand as a result.
Alrighty, now I've read and heard from a lot of people, steam whistle has found the secret fifth ingredient of beer that not many people know. What is that secret fifth ingredient?
Well, there's a great story there. I was going to a radio show in Kitchener with America Brewmaster, and on the way out I saw him talking to Johnny, one of our delivery guys, and they were in a conversation, seemed a little passionate discussion they were having, and I'm waiting in the car for America, we're going to light up people, he gets in the car, and off we go. I didn't mention the conversation, but in the radio station interview, they asked how many ingredients are in our beer, and Merrick answers and said there's 5, and I was thinking, there's not 5, what's he talking about? This could go wrong. And he mentioned the first 4, and then says the last, the most important one is the love. And after that, I said, Merrick, that's brilliant, talking about the passion that way. And he said, well, Johnny 5 told me, talking about ingredients on air, I gotta tell our customers, it's all about the love.
That's great. How many employees do you guys have?
We have 137 approximately, and we both full and part-time employees.
Alrighty, and lastly, I have a few questions from some viewers. One, is your yeast strain grown in-house?
No, we import the yeast from Europe, and for consistency purposes, to ensure that the product always tasting the same, we certainly admire the work they do in terms of cultivating yeast. We're happy to have it refreshing.
Alrighty, and then another one was from a viewer that says he has never once found a light struck bottle of steam whistle yet. He wanted to know if you guys do something different with your bottles compared to Heineken or the other green bottles.
Well, I think one of the advantages steam whistle has in terms of green bottle beer is that we're fresh and local. So often when you go to a beer store and purchasing our product, in the summer, for example, when we're very busy, you can occasionally find a beer that's made even that day or within a couple of days of coming from the brewery, and that makes a big difference in terms of being light-struck. We also have a special service we offer our restaurants in Canada, and that is we have a group of guys we call Team Clean, and they go into the restaurants and they check the date codes of the bottles, making sure the product is fresh. If it's 8 weeks or older, we're replacing with fresh product. So as a result, when you go into restaurants and beer stores, using the same system for beer stores, you get fresh steam whistle, and the chances of it being light-struck are much less.
Alrighty. Still here with Greg, talking distribution here. What's your distribution region?
Well, we sell our beer right now in Ontario, the province of Ontario. We also cover Alberta and BC, and we're just moving into Manitoba. We do that differently. Here in Ontario, we do most of our own beer, and in Alberta, BC, and Manitoba, we use distribution services. In most cases, you're required to in most provinces until you reach a certain size before you can actually deliver on your own. So in those cases, we're having someone else deliver our beer for us.
All right. Do you guys need to direct deliver?
Yeah, we really believe that delivery of our products is just as important as the brewery of our product, and because it's all about freshness. What I always say is that the best beer is a beer that just comes off the line. It doesn't matter who's making it, anywhere you are in the world. If you want to have the best tasting beer, a particular beer that you enjoy, go to the brewery, go on a tour. You can come through it on a tour here at Steam Whistle, and you can try a bottle of beer that's just come off the line. There isn't anything better. So to follow from that, our idea is we can directly deliver to our restaurants, to our beer stores and liquor stores, so that when the beer comes in, customers come in to grab a Steam Whistle, chances are it'll be very, very fresh compared to alternative services of using a larger distributor that would be doing warehousing. In our case, we're coming right from the brewery directly into those stores. And also, it's a great opportunity to develop a relationship with people that are running the stores They can hear the steam whistle story, understand our passion. We have an opportunity to look at the date codes and make sure the product is fresh, is in good shape, and replace it if it's not. So from our perspective, real advantage to go directly in there, meet our customers, and make sure the beer's top notch.
Alrighty. And for the viewers that do not know, could you explain what you have to go about to get into the LCBO and the Brewers retail?
If you're starting up a craft brewery in Ontario, there's a process you have to go through to apply as a craft brewer with Brewers Retail, and then after going through that, you have an opportunity to invest in listings throughout the province, and there's a cost for that, upfront cost. Once you've paid that, and this is in the case of Brewers Retail specifically, you can then ship beer out to beer stores either directly as we do or through their system, and of course there's fees and charges for that. But the nice thing about Ontario is that you can be in probably 400 stores within a 4-week startup period if you can manufacture enough beer and you have the resources to do that. And Craft Brewery Ontario can be up and running in a lot of stores. And similar to the LCBO, in that case you don't pay a fee per store, you pay fees for distribution for their system, and you also have to ensure that you have representation in terms of going out and seeing the stores, and in some cases you'll have to convince the store managers in the LCBO to try your product out. But the LCBO is very supportive as well of carrying new and up-and-coming craft breweries.
What type of difficulties are there getting your beer listed outside of Ontario?
Well, the challenges outside of Ontario, and they change by province, have to do with, namely with tariffs. Each province has their own opportunity to develop a tariff system, depending on whether or not they want to keep craft brewers out of their province that are not produced in the province. For example, Quebec has the most stringent and the highest tariff fees to selling beer in their province, and it makes it quite difficult for a craft brewery outside Quebec to actually sell in that province and not lose money. In the case of Alberta, is probably the best example of a province in Canada that's very open and accepting to premium craft beers coming into their province and being sold in their stores. And that's why we looked at Alberta first, expanding outside of Ontario. BC is pretty good, not quite as low of tariff fee as Alberta is, but certainly better than Quebec. So you need to choose your markets based on where you're able to afford to move to and sell beer without actually losing money.
Alright, and on average, how long does it take for one of your beers to get off the line and onto the shelves in the stores?
I would say in the summertime, there's opportunity for us to, once it clears the lab, to have beer on a beer store the same day. In fact, we have had people email us and call us and say, I think there's something wrong with your date coder because I went to the beer store today at lunchtime and I have a beer that claims on the box that it was made that day. In that case, it was actually filled in the hours prior to this person picking up the beer. So that is possible because of our direct delivery service, and that's fresh beer.
That's fresh beer. On the licensee level, is there any problems with distribution? Do you have any problems with the bigger guys? Or
the question is whether we have challenges with competitive challenges with larger breweries who, of course, are owned by foreign conglomerates. Certainly, the larger breweries do not want to see us, Steam Whistle, or any other craft brewery expand and prosper in the province of Ontario or anywhere in Canada for that matter. So I will say yes, there are a lot of challenges. There's relationships these guys have had over years. There's support systems. There's relationships that the larger breweries have had with licensee community over many years, and those relationships are strong and are supported with considerable resources. And as a result, it's quite difficult to have a licensee consider a craft brewery who will not be able to support them, maybe in the way that a larger brewer has in the past. But what's great about our licensees and our licensee community in Ontario is most people realize when running a restaurant that the customer is the most important person for their business, and that listening to them and understanding their interest in trying craft beers is really essential to their success. And because of that, we are able to prosper. We are given opportunities, although they be small in some cases, to sell our bottles and craft in Ontario stores.
Alrighty. And I almost always see the pseudo craft brews in the U.S. Is there a huge problem trying to get across the international?
Yeah, I mean, there's two questions there for us. First of all, pseudo-craft breweries that we see in Canada as well. That can be very frustrating for us because really what it is somebody saying, hey, we like this idea of craft beer. Clearly our consumers enjoy it. Let's fake it. Let's make a beer that looks like it's a craft brew but actually isn't. Let's not be authentic and let's send a message to customers that maybe we're what we think we are when we're actually not. And often those businesses that are doing it have a lot of funds to put behind the marketing of the beer so it looks authentic but it actually isn't. That's what we feel special with Steam Whistle is we're seeing over 100,000 people come down to our craft brewery in downtown Toronto and see, look, touch what's going on here, meet the people that are passionate about making beer, try the beer right off the line, coming off the line that day right into the consumer's hands. See how it happens from bringing them to the back door to people walking in the front door with fresh beer. And we're passionate about that and about promoting the idea of that and letting people, having the public understand there's a big difference between pseudo and authentic. In terms of moving into the U.S., for us, it's not really something that we're that interested in currently. Our goal is to become the most respected premium beer in Canada, and that's going to take us a while. We're doing it in a very methodical way, moving into the provinces that we're most comfortable with. We don't invest in huge media campaigns. We have our people come from the brewery, move into those new areas, and carry our torch and tell the story of Steam Whistle. So it'll be quite a few years before we're across Canada and we attain a position of being understood as a well-respected craft beer, a Canadian craft beer. At that point, we might consider moving to the U.S. and then we'll address the issues of competition when we get to that point.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Good day, everybody. We're here with Gord, the Steam Whistle Brewing Company. What do you do here?
I'm the basically electrical guy here. I do all the electrical work from the basics right up to the programming and basically everything involved, yeah.
And I'm betting you in such a large place there's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do and it's, we're growing so fast that I'll tell you, it's just moving right along very well.
And how long have you been in the industry?
Started in the industry in about 1980. So I guess that would take me into the industry for about 32 years, 31 years, yep.
And how did you get into it?
I've always liked beer. I mean, I got an opportunity to get into the beer industry. I heard it was a pretty, secure industry to work in, and I got into it for that reason.
What's your favorite style of beer?
I love a Pilsner, I also love an ale, and I love a lot of different European. I love beer, so I taste everything, so to be honest, yeah.
Is there a least favorite style?
Yeah, if it's too bitter. I'm not a too bitter person, you know.
All right, hophead or malt maniac?
I like the sweetness. I'm a sweeter,
right.
yeah, I'm a sweeter beer lover, yeah.
Just like me.
Yeah, there you go.
If you had to drink two beers other than Steam Whistle for the rest of your life, one from a big company and one from a little company, what would they be?
I think I'm a little bit tied into a sort of Bonington's ale and some of the Kilkennys, etc. If I'm drinking it from the big company, I'm going to say Alexander Keith's as far as an ale is concerned.
Alrighty, and to you, what's the difference between the macro breweries and the craft breweries?
The microbreweries and the craft.
The big guys and these little.
Oh, okay. Just a lot more in this place. A lot more care taken in the beer. No, shouldn't say care. The big boys do a lot of care. They do a lot of stuff like that. But passion, I would say passion would be the thing. Everybody who works in here is passionate about what they do, and they care about what they do. So you get a better product.
Well, thank you very much, Gord, for your time.
You're more than welcome.
Have yourself a wonderful day.
Okay.
Good day, guys. We're here in the lab at Steam Whistle with Colin. How did you get into the industry?
Well, my interest in brewing started, I guess, in university, and when I did a lab in microbiology course. We learned how to brew beer, and then I realized I could do it a lot cheaper, and I just started becoming a home brewer, and did a lot of home brewing. And my interest grew until I decided to go to school for it. And then naturally I tried to find a job in the industry, and the rest is history.
Alrighty, and What's your favorite thing about the industry?
I like that, or at least my position here, I can combine science with the lab with the actual art of making beer. I like that it gives me that freedom to mix both together.
What do you dislike about the industry?
I'm still trying to find something.
What's your favorite style of beer?
It depends on mood and season and all kinds. That's a tough question. I think that's an essay answer. Maybe not a short little blurb here.
Least favorite style of beer?
Probably the American lager.
The adjunct lager that's everywhere.
You bet, yeah.
Hophead or malt maniac?
Once again, that depends. But I probably lean towards a bit of a hophead.
Alrighty, other than Steam Whistle, you have 2 beers you can drink for the rest of your life. One from another craft brewery, and then one from one of the bigger guys. What are they going to be?
One of my favorite beers I've had is from a small brewery in Scotland called Caledonian. They have a wonderful pale ale called Dukers, and they offer it cask conditioned in the UK, and it is just fantastic. I really love it. And from a large brewery, well, do you consider Boston Brewing Company a large brewery or a micro? See, they're kind of...
Technically, the American Craft Brewing Association changed their definition
to accommodate them, exactly.
To keep them a craft.
If you consider them big, I am partial to Sam Adams. But if I have to think of another big brewer, probably probably just one of the easy summer beers, like Lowenbrau or something. You know, some one of those Munich beers or something.
Lowenbrau used to be so beautiful in the bottle. And no back got its hanging on it. What type of things do you do here in the lab?
Well, we're monitoring everything that goes on out there on the floor. I mean, everything from raw materials right through the entire process, packaging, and as well as the final product. We also handle any customer complaints that may arise. So really, we have our eyes on just about every part of the process. We take samples throughout, checking key parameters like bitterness, color, the carbonation. We do a lot of microbiological analysis to ensure it's pure. We run taste panels regularly to monitor the flavor. And that's a good summary of what we do here.
Now, from the lab perspective, how does craft brew differ from the macro brands?
Well, I've never worked at a macro brewery, so I mean.
You never wanted to dissect one of their beers?
We have looked at, analyzed them for benchmarking purposes. They are very good at being consistent. I have to admit that's one thing that we're always battling with. It's something I think we do pretty well here, but there's always room for improvement, and we're always striving to be a better beer. But we love our beer, I think, more than a macro does. So we can put more attention to it than they probably do.
Well, thank you very much, Colin, for your time.
No problem.
Good day, everybody. Here at Steam Whistle with Jeff, one of the brewers here. First, how did you get into the industry?
I got in the industry many years ago. I got in at Molson's as a temporary. I started at Molson's downtown here, where they're like most businesses now. There's just condos where there used to be a factory. I started there. I started off in the keg room many years ago. I started off in the kind of keg that used to have like a bung in the side. My first job in the brewery was removing bungs from kegs. So, and gradually I moved up. Molson's is the kind of place, at the time, if you showed some interest and you showed that you could be trusted, they'd sort of give you more and more jobs. They'd let you move up the ladder. I worked there for a couple years. Eventually, I got laid off, and I got a job in Upper Canada, where most of the founders of Steam Whistle come from. I worked there for about 9 years. They closed when they got bought up by a third company. And then when they started this brewery, as fortune would have it, they offered me a job here, and it's been smooth sailing ever since.
Favorite style of beer?
I don't really have a favorite style of beer. I like pretty much all beers. As long as it's cold and it's wet, it's kind of my favorite style.
Hophead or Malt Maniac?
Hophead.
If you had to drink one beer from a small company and one beer from a large company, plus steam whistle, what would they be?
From a large company, probably like I like Ackershore. That's a real good beer. And from a small company that excludes steam whistle,
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I really don't drink any other beer but steam whistle. I think you're trying to trap me here, but I don't know. There's a lot of really good micros out there, so I like to try them all. I think that's a good thing. Where if you go to a bar that has micros, is to continually try, experiment, and continually discover new beers, new styles, and all sorts of good things. So that doesn't answer your question. That's an evasion. So I like. There's a beer called Nine by Mike Dugan. It's a very good beer. I really enjoy that, and I'm sure if anyone else tried it, they'd enjoy it too.
Alrighty. As a brewer, what's the strangest ingredient you've used to brew with?
Strangest ingredient. We were making a bitter at Upper Canada, and we used to add carbonate to the water to soften it up. That's about the strangest thing I've ever used. You know what? I'd like to add to the last thing. You asked me about the strangest ingredient. The strangest ingredient is corn syrup, brewer syrup that they add to high gravity brews. That's strange because it comes out of the tank like tar. So I'd say that's about the strangest thing I've ever seen them add to beer.
I don't know if you've ever seen this, but Rickard's actually has a video up on their site for Rickard's Red where they are glorifying the corn syrup they add to it. I wasn't even going to bring this up, but now that we're talking about that, they're talking about how they add the corn syrup to make it smoother, softer, easier drinking. And they're just glorifying it to try and, you know, push the people that are on the fence back towards them.
Well, I haven't been at Molson's for quite a few years, but Rickard's Red originally is just export with a little caramel color in it. So if you know someone that really likes Rickard's Red, you can laugh at them because the joke's on them.
To you, what's the difference between the macro breweries and the craft breweries?
The real difference for me is that the macro breweries laid me off and the micro breweries gave me a job. I think if you seriously want to know the differences, I find in the macro breweries there's a few people that really care about brewing, but I find that the people in the offices seem to run the show, and I know that sounds kind of trite, but it seems like the accountants are pretty cynical about the whole deal, and they don't really believe in making stuff to delight people. They're just trying to rip people off all the time. That's just my personal opinion, but they always seem to be trying to find ways to shortchange people.
Do you believe that once the average consumer starts drinking craft beers, they'll be more willing to pay the extra $2 or $3 that people try to say is the exorbitant price difference between craft beer and the big guys?
I think that craft brewing, like a lot of other businesses in Ontario, is that when people see that the big breweries or the big factories closing down, like Maple Leaf's closed down a lot of small food processing plants, and people see the economic benefit of shopping with the small guy, the medium-sized guy, I think people will be more than willing to buy it. And I think once people get used to an all-malt brew, not a high-gravity brew like a macro brewery, I think people will be really willing to pay for a more expensive but a higher quality brew.
Alrighty, well thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Have yourself a good day.